Now I'll read from Sri Caitanya-caritamrta, Madhya Lila, chapter 19, text 152, if you'd like to get it up on your screen. Madhya Lila, chapter 19, text 152. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Mali. Now you might think this is pronounced Hanna, but it's pronounced Hoya, Kore, She, Bij, Aropan, Shravan, Kirtan, Jale, Koreye, Shechan, Mali Hoya Kore She Bij Aropan. Shravan Kirtan Jale Kore Shechan Mali Hoya Kore She Bijaropan Shravan Kirtan Jale Kore Shechan Mali Hoya Kore She Bijaropan Shravan Kirtan Jale Kare Shechan.
Mali hoya kore shei bijaropan. Savana kirtan jale kore shechan. Mali hoya kore shei bijaropan. Savana kirtan jale kore shechan.
Mali hoya karese biche aropanam. Shravan kirtan chale karaye se chanam.
Shravan kirtan chale kariye se chanam.
Mali hoya kare se bijaropan. Shravan kirtan jale kare se chanam.
Mali hoya kare se bijaropan. Shravan kirtan jale kare se chan.
The translation, to put this in context, this is the verse directly after the famous verse, Brahmanda Brahmite Kono Bhagavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. Out of all the living entities wandering in the universe, one fortunate person, by the mercy of Guru and Krishna, may get the seed of devotional service. The seed of the creeper of devotional service. So translation of this verse, which we read today, which we read just now. When a person receives the seed of devotional service, he should take care of it by becoming a gardener and sowing the seed in his heart. If he waters the seed gradually by the process of Shravan and Kirtan, hearing and chanting, the seed will begin to sprout. Purport. To live with devotees or to live in a temple means to associate with the Shravan Kirtan process. Sometimes neophyte devotees think that they can continue the Shravan Kirtan process without worshipping the deity. But the execution of such Shravan Kirtan is meant for highly developed devotees like Haridas Thakur, who engaged in the Shravan Kirtan process without worshipping the deity. However, one should not falsely imitate Haridas Thakur and abandon deity worship just to try to engage in Shravan Kirtan. This is not possible for neophyte devotees. The word Guru Prasad, referring to the verse previous to this, indicates that the spiritual master is very merciful in bestowing the boon of devotional service upon the disciple. That is the best possible gift the spiritual master has to offer. Those with a background of pious life are eligible to receive life's supreme benefit, and to bestow this benefit, the Supreme Personality of Godhead sends his representative to impart his mercy. Endowed with the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the spiritual master distributes the mercy to those who are elevated and pious. Thus, the spiritual master trains his disciples to render devotional service under the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is called Guru Kripa. It is Krishna Prasad, Krishna's mercy, that he sends a bona fide spiritual master to the deserving disciple. By the mercy of Krishna, one meets the bona fide spiritual master, and by the mercy of the spiritual master, the disciple is fully trained in the devotional service of the Lord. Bhaktilata Bij means the seed of devotional service. Everything has an original cause or seed. For any idea, program, plan, or device, there is first of all the contemplation of the plan, and that is called the bij or seed. The methods, rules, and regulations by which one is perfectly trained in devotional service constitute the Bhaktilata Bij or seed of devotional service. This Bhaktilata Bij is received from the spiritual master by the grace of Krishna. Other seeds called Anyabhilasha Bij include Karma Bij and Jnana Bij. If one is not fortunate enough to receive the Bhaktilata Bij from the spiritual master, he instead cultivates such seeds as Karma Bij, Jnana Bij, or political, social, or philanthropic Bijas. However, the Bhaktilata Bij is different from these other Bijas. The Bhaktilata Bij can be received only through the mercy of the spiritual master. Therefore, one has to satisfy the spiritual master to get the Bhaktilata Bij. Yasya prasadad bhagavat prasadaha. The Bhaktilata Bij is the origin of devotional service. Unless one satisfies the spiritual master, he gets the Bij or root cause of karma, jnana, and yoga without the benefit of devotional service. But one who is faithful to the spiritual master gets the Bhaktilata Bij. This Bhaktilata Bij is received when one is initiated by the bona fide spiritual master. After receiving the spiritual master's mercy, one must repeat his instructions, and this is called Shravan Kirtan, hearing and chanting. One who has not properly heard from the spiritual master, or who does not follow the regulative principles, is not fit for chanting, kirtan. This is explained in the Bhagavad-gita, Vyavasayatmika buddhir ekeha kurunandana. One who has not listened carefully to the instructions of the spiritual master is unfit for chanting or for preaching the cult of devotional service. One has to water the Bhaktilata Bij by receiving instructions from the spiritual master. Om Jnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Shrishtam Manum Api Shachiputra Matra Surupam Rupam Tasyagrajamo Rupurim Maturim Goshtavatim Radha Kundam Girivaramaho Radhika Madhavasham Prapto Yasya Pratita Kripaya Shri Gurum Tamnatosmi. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Ataf Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shirupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha Guru Vaishnav Bhagavan Tina Smarane Hoy Bigna Vinashan Anayashi Hoy Nijavan Tita Puran Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This is a very suitable verse for a Shravan Kirtan camp. Shravan Kirtan Jale Koreye Shaitan. We should water. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives the instruction that we should water the seed which we have received. We should water the seed of devotional service by hearing and chanting, which of course means hearing and chanting about Krishna. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Mali Hoya, becoming a gardener. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself is also earlier in Caitanya-caritamrta by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, figuratively described as a gardener who cultivates the plants of prema and distributes the fruit of love of God all over the world. However, although there's so much to be spoken on, in this one purport, is so much important instruction can be discussed in great detail. But I wanted to use this as a springboard to speak on two emails that I received recently from two disciples related to this subject. One of them, I'd asked her to translate some Bengali songs from Bengali to English by Premananda Thakur, which probably most of you, maybe all of you, never heard of. Even probably many Bengali Vaishnavas haven't heard of him. His songs are not very famous, as Narottam's songs are famous, Lochan's songs are famous, and Chandidas, his songs are famous among Bengali Vaishnavas. Not so very famous, but he's written some very beautiful songs, and recently I came across a collection of them in Bengali, and I asked her to translate that, and she sent me one of the songs that she had translated, and to check out the translation, to run it past me to see if I'm satisfied with the level of translation, and also to reminisce about some time earlier in her life, because this song by Premananda is about gardening. We should all become gardeners. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instruction. Everyone should be a gardener. Literally also, it's a very good service for pleasing Krishna. Krishna likes flowers. One name of his is Vanamali. He likes to wear a garland of forest flowers. Galadeshe Bonamala, we hear of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He wears a garland of forest flowers, wild flowers. But we can cultivate also, that's a very important part of deity worship, to grow flowers, and right from the very from this, preparing the ground, planting the seed, watering, keeping out the weeds, and gradually the flower comes up, and then you offer to Krishna along with other flowers. A few years ago in Sri Rangam, South India, one of the, it's the largest operating temple of Lord Vishnu in the world. Some gardeners came to see me. They've dedicated their life for growing flowers for offering to Ranganatha Swami. And Sri Ramanuja, he gave a whole system for each deity, each day, which garland should be there, which order the flowers should be put in, very systematic. So they they were very enthusiastic. They came and showed me so many pictures, and they're fully into it. They're just growing flowers, and that's what they do. And then they make the garlands, and they don't offer them directly to the Lord. They're not Brahmana by caste. The Brahmanas, they offer. So that's a very good service, to grow flowers to offer to Krishna. So this devotee, Madhavi Lata Devi Dasi, she's also reminiscing in her childhood, because she's the daughter of the temple president in Vadodara, Gujarat, where I spent quite some time in the 1990s. So she's before the temple was open there. So we have a big plot of land. I used to stay in one little room in the corner of that land, and she, as a young girl, would come. She was, what age does she give? 8 or 9 years old. Would bring some wild flowers to me, but I say, I have to offer that. You have to offer it to Krishna. She's saying, I taught her that, and I taught her, she's remembering. Yeah, I have to, so I'd keep the flowers in front of the pictures of the lordships from Vrindavan Dham. And then I taught her which flowers can be offered to Krishna. Some are offerable, some are not offerable. So she's remembering that, and remembering how later she got the opportunity to make garlands and prepare flowers in different places for the Lord. And in her present location, she doesn't have the opportunity to directly do that. So let's go through this song, very instructive. Premananda Thakur has written a series of songs which are collected together and called Mana Shikha, instructions to the mind. More famous Mana Shiksha is that of Srila Raghunath Das Goswami in Sanskrit, and this is in Bengali. By addressing his mind, he's teaching all of us how to be devotees. What does it mean to be a devotee? His one song, he finishes, this is also suitable for a Shravan Kirtan camp. Shravana Kirtana Karo Anukhana. Karo Anukhana. Ashata Pachala Chari. Kahe Premananda Manusha Janama Shafala Karona Bari. Which means Shravana Kirtana, that you can understand. Karo Anukhana. Just moment after moment, continuously hear and chant about Krishna, and give up all useless nonsense talks, gossip. Premananda says, Kahe Premananda, this Manusha Janama, this human life, make it successful and don't delay. Do it now. So all of these songs, they begin, Ore Mon. It's addressing the mind. O mind. Tumi ba kemon malaka. I'll read her translation. What kind of gardener are you? Nirantar boishe jai, abadhan nahi tai, etano arame ki shusha. You simply waste your time sitting around not paying attention to your real duties. Is it sufficient in life to simply give all comforts to the body? Good instruction for everyone, especially those who have taken up the duty of being a gardener. Physically growing flowers, but we should also make our heart a nice flower garden where Krishna likes to come. We should have the flowers, flowers of all good qualities, so that Krishna is very attracted. Some of these words are difficult to translate and difficult to understand, because it's, as most of the songs, older songs in Bengali, Caitanya-caritamrta also, it's old, and old Bengali, and also there was no standardized Bengali until the 19th century. And they're all different dialects and dialectical words. Ropi Bhakti Pushpa Shreni Shravan Kirtan Pani Shinchite Alish Karotai Shangsha Bashana Surja Tarki Pratap Sharja Deko Taro She Tape Shukai. While planting the seeds of bhakti, you fail to sprinkle it with the water of hearing and chanting due to laziness. Srila Prabhupada many times, he warned about laziness. Krishna warns in Bhagavad-gita, Nidra Alasya, two qualities of the mode of ignorance, sleep and laziness. And he also warns about procrastination, Dirgha Sutri, one who is always putting things off. There's another symptom of the mode of ignorance. So one has to be active in Krishna consciousness. It's not this going away from the world and just relaxing. It's the Hare Krishna movement. We're all supposed to move back. We're in Maya now. We have to get out of it, so we have to make some movement. While planting the seeds of bhakti, you fail to sprinkle it with the water of hearing and chanting. Due to laziness, the newly sprouted seedlings are drying up in the scorching heat of material desire, like the sun whose rays are extremely hot and powerful. So all of us here are so fortunate to have received the seed of devotional service, but we have to do our work. We have to go on with hearing and chanting and serving and trying, and it's an ongoing struggle, but if we don't do it, then we're going to be beset with material desires and suffer from that. And Maya comes and punches harder at those who are trying to escape from her clutches. Jatek Indriyagan Shab Ta Parijan Nijukta Karo Ha Shab Tate Ratri Dine Abiram Karo Shabe E Kam Shinchia Bharha O Bhalomote. I'm reading the English in Bengali now also. To safeguard and protect your tender new seedlings of bhakti from drying up, please engage all your senses, which are like your relatives, in assisting you to care for them. Day and night, all of you should constantly care for and irrigate the delicate plants of devotion and give them all protection from the scorching heat of the sun. Yes, devotional service means, what does it mean? Definition in this regard? Engaging the senses. Well-known verse. Anyone? Sarvopaya. See, he was in our Gurukul when he was a kid. It's a better education than what they give you in the government schools anywhere. Sarvopadi vinir muktam tat paratvena nirmalam rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhakti ruchyate. This is one of the several definitions of bhakti. Being freed from mundane designations, concentrating on service to the Supreme Lord with a pure heart, engaging all the senses in the service of the master of the senses, who is Krishna, and that is called bhakti. So, the senses are here compared to relatives. They're very close to us. They'll always be with us. We don't try to stop the senses, but keep them engaged. If we don't engage the senses in caring for the plants of bhakti, then we'll go mad. We have to look after our tender garden of bhakti. Sadhu Sangig Harakari. Svagyan Praharid Hari. Shavdhane Takya Tahai. Kama Krodha Adi Chaga. Kedarya Debe Taka. Jali Shaka Palab Chabai. In Caitanya-caritamrta, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu warns about the mad elephant who can destroy the carefully cultivated garden of devotional service. That is Vaishnava Parad. Here, Premananda Thakur gives the example, or gives the analogy of goats. You don't get many goats in this country, but they eat everything. Srila Prabhupada would sometimes quote as saying, Chagale, chagal means goat. Pagale kina bale, chagale kina kai. What is there that a goat won't eat? And what is there that a madman won't say? So goats, they eat everything. So he's warning, make a fence around your garden. What is the fence? Sadhu Sangha. Please fence the garden with the association of Vaishnavas. Sadhu Sangha. And being always alert. Shvagana Prahari. Keep a watchman. Who is the watchman? Svagyan. Knowledge of yourself. Safeguard these devotional seedlings with great care and caution. Watch out for the goats. What are the goats? Kam, Krodh, Adi. Lust, anger, greed, attachment, madness, and illusion. You have to chase. They must be pursued and chased away. Otherwise they'll chew the tender creeper branches and leaves. Yeah, if you don't have a fence and you're not attentive, then you just leave the garden for a few minutes for something and they'll finish it off. Be careful. Pushpa hobe bikoshit. Dig hobe shubashit. Santoshe loya parijan. Anjali anjali bhari. Paramata rupe hari. Tar pade karo shamapan. When cared for properly, the plants will flourish, bearing fruits and flowers, making it very beautiful and fragrant in all directions, satisfying all the senses, just like relatives engage in tending to the plants. Please take these beautiful flowers by the handful and offer them at the feet of Paramatma, Lord Sri Krishna. We're ready to bring a bouquet of our everything that goes on in our mind, that we're ready to offer that to Krishna. It has to be very beautiful flowers. Premananda kahemon, Krishna puja anukon, lobher shutai gantamala. Lobher shutai gantamala. Krishna dia eudan, chahile re premadhan, apani guchi be shabjala. Premananda says, O mind, please always worship Lord Krishna by making a garland and offering it to him on the string of greed for seva. What will be? You're going to make the garland. This is all allegorical. So what are you going to use for the string? Is the greed to serve Krishna. Please cultivate and dedicate this garden for the pleasure of Lord Krishna. And pray for the wealth of selfless love in exchange for it. You will be relieved of all the burning and suffering of this material world. Going on to another email received from a devotee who doesn't want to be named, who's engaged in physically cultivating a garden, not directly for the service of deities, in his backyard. It used to be a common thing in England that people would cultivate their back garden. I don't know if some people maybe do that, if they have a backyard garden space. What do you think? They still do it? They like to do it. Cultivate flowers. So not everything bad is in England. There's some good things also. If they offer it to Krishna, then it would be perfect. So in gardening, seems like a very peaceful, very pleasant kind of undertaking, but it's a constant fight, constant struggle. How is that? We'll get to understand this. He quoted from Sri Caitanya-caritamrta, Madhya Lila, chapter 19, text 159, purport. This is where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is warning about the weeds that can grow as we're cultivating the creeper of devotion. Nishidacha, kutinati, jibe hingshan, lab puja pratishtadi jato, upashakagon. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu warns about weeds, forbidden behavior. We know it's wrong, but still we do it. Nishidacha, kutinati, diplomacy, pretending to want to benefit someone, but actually wanting to exploit them. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu warns about that. In other words, it can happen in devotional service also. Sometimes people are surprised when they come to discover that people they thought were very saintly devotees, if you get to know them a little better, you get to know another side of their nature. But that shouldn't be. That will if we have such a tendency, that will destroy our actual devotional advancement. Jibe hingshan, violence to other living beings. That's what it literally means. And that's easy to understand. That also falls within nishidacha. Eating meat, 4 regulated principles. Don't eat meat. It's possible to eat meat without being violent to living beings. You can wait for them to die and then eat them. But we don't eat meat. But Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur gives another dimension on this. To stop the preaching of Krishna consciousness is enviousness. To stop in various ways, or to present as if one's presenting Krishna consciousness, but instead present the bija, the seed of karma, jnana, or yoga, or philanthropic work. In the purport we read just now, all these things are together, are mentioned. So this purport from this verse, there's a quote here. All these obstructions have been described in this verse as unwanted creepers. They simply present obstacles for the real creeper, the bhakti lata. One should be very careful to avoid all these unwanted things. Sometimes these unwanted creepers look exactly like the bhakti creeper. What if you're doing all the things, you're doing Shravan Kirtan, you're putting the water, but it's mixed with poison, but you don't even recognize it? Can be very subtle, these contaminations. The unwanted creepers can look exactly like the bhakti creeper. They appear to be of the same size and the same species when they are packed together with the bhakti creeper. But in spite of this, the creepers are called upashaka. We have a well-known word, kripa. We want kripa. We want mercy. But we don't want the unwanted creepers. Upashaka, that's called upashaka. A pure devotee can distinguish between the bhakti creeper and a mundane creeper, and he is very alert to distinguish them and keep them separate. So in pursuance of this, he's noted about his garden weeds, what you can learn. Philosophical lessons you can learn from weeds in your garden. Life lessons, the Zen of gardening, or gardening mindfulness. No, we're not into all that stuff. Krishna conscious gardening. So what happens if you don't remain alert? In a very short time, weeds quickly take over a patch of land. You've been nicely cultivating it. You just leave it for a short time, and all of a sudden you find it's covered with weeds. He says that during the winter, when my garden is not active, there's nothing much to do in the winter, so you don't be active. So he's not active in the garden, but the weeds are active. And by the following spring, the weeds have taken over. Some weeds can appear to look exactly like the plants you are trying to grow. Be careful if you're collecting herbs, jungle herbs, for, what do they call that? Pot herbs you can make. Where do vegetables come from? Tesco, that's right. Who said that? You know. You heard several times I told that story, right? Vegetables come from Tesco. Tesco, Sarvasya Prabhavo. Everything comes from Tesco. But there's so many things growing wild. And people who live on the land, more in India, as a tropical country. And if you go to the jungles of Borneo, you'll find that so many things are growing. And you have to know what you can collect so many leaves and flowers and roots and shoots and use them. Cook them, or they may be used for medicinal. You take some stalk of a plant, crush it a little bit, and then rub it, and then some rash goes away or some burn goes away. There's so many, every plant. One time Srila Prabhupada was walking with some devotees and he pointed to a plant. What use is that plant? He said, no use, Prabhupada. He said, no, every plant has a use, just you don't know it. So every plant has a use. But you have to be very careful because some can be poisonous also. So that's also a use. If you want to poison someone, it's also there. It also has its usage. We may not use it, but it's there within God's creation. Now, I have a question for Charles Darwin. You there, Charles? One of the flies buzzing around. How is it that animals know which plants to graze on and which not to? Because some plants will kill them. How do they know? It's by natural selection. But the ones that died, they don't come back and tell you that, well, we died from eating this plant. I have many questions for Charles Darwin. What about chickens? For thousands of years, chickens have been kept, and by humans, and they're slaughtered and killed. So why don't they evolve to fly away and not be killed? What do you say, Charles? Any answer? Go and dig him up from Westminster Abbey. Anyway, back to the garden. Keep the chickens out too. They can do some useful things and unuseful things. So, if you're not careful, you can mistake the weed to be the plant you are nurturing. You say, "Oh, such a nice plant." Then you look after it very nicely, and you find it doesn't produce the flower. You do so much work, but it only has the leaves, which look the same, but it doesn't produce the flowers that you're trying to produce. And weeds are made by Krishna to frustrate gardeners, or by natural selection. Maybe. Make that a very big maybe. What happens is if you don't uproot them regularly, they quickly start to grow much faster than the plant you are trying to grow. Now remember, this is all an analogy for devotional service. So we're trying to cultivate bhakti. But if we don't watch out for all the bad things in the heart and pull them up, then they'll start to grow quicker than the plant of bhakti. And it's not just a one-time I pulled out all the weeds. The garden is completely free of any weeds. They'll come back again. Why is that? Because we have a deep stock of seeds deeply in the consciousness. Karma-ashaya. It's a reservoir of unmanifested desires. In so many lifetimes, we've had so many desires, and they just remain. The ones that are not fulfilled, they enter the store. We may not be aware of them, and that may pop up after many billions of lives. Some desire. We may want them chanting Hare Krishna, seeing the deity, and then some bad thought. Where did that come from? Some bad thought where did that come from? How can that be? It may have come up from millions of lives ago. So the weeds can grow faster, plants that you're trying to grow. And some weeds, like bindweed, can wrap itself all around the plant and start to choke it or stop its growth. While uprooting certain weeds like dandelions, which also have their usage, they're very good use medicinally, and the leaves at this season can be cooked. But don't get them from the side of the road where all the traffic goes. But if you can get out in the field and cook some, you can pull up dandelion leaves and makes a nice spinach type. A bit bitter, but or you can eat it raw also. The roots are good for what? Dandelion root. You can eat it also. I didn't know that. Okay, good. So certain weeds, but in the garden they're considered weeds. And if you're not careful, actually, you have to use a little trowel many times. Otherwise you pull it and it just snaps and the roots remain within. And then it again starts to grow. And some of them are so insidious they have a whole underground network. And you can dig it out and it just goes on and on and on. And with all root, it's a whole gulag of spread out, up, down, in, out, and the roots are also wrapping themselves around the roots of the plants you want to grow. So it can be very difficult to get out the roots of the weeds without damaging the root of the plant that you want to keep. And you may dig deep into the earth with being very careful not to break the root of the weed, because you want to get right to the end of it. Of course, there's no one end because there are many ends. It's, what is that, Medusa? The hair is a Jimi Hendrix, Sai Baba, whatever. It's spread out all over. It's not just one. There are so many, but you don't want to break it, because if you break it, they're going to come back again. And you just slightly break, and then that's it. Very, very, very persistent. He gives the example of mint also, which is a very useful plant, but it also has it spreads its roots underground all over the place and over the ground. And they can just, and that's the underground. And overground also, you have in London, you have the underground and the overground railways, right? So overground, they're seeds. They make so many seeds which spread everywhere. So be very careful. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wants to distinguish between what is the proper path of devotional service and to root out that which is not the proper path, and to cultivate the proper path of devotional service. We think that we'll go on hearing and chanting and then automatically our job is done, but not necessarily. Because there is nama-parada, nama-bhas, and shuddhanam. Chanting with offenses, purely chanting, and the in-between stage. So it may be that we're chanting, but if we're not pulling out the weeds, and not only that, but there are, if we do our Shravan Kirtan wrongly, or we hear from the wrong source, then we're going to be having, through the medium of the ear, contamination on the process of devotional service. And we're going on hearing and chanting about Krishna, and it all seems very bona fide, but we're getting wrong ideas about Krishna, offensive ideas about Krishna. Or the karma beach, jnana beach, yoga beach is being cultivated. Or Srila Prabhupada gives some other examples. The philanthropy beach, the being a nice person beach. The main aim in life is to be a nice person and be nice to everyone, but that's not the goal of life. Automatically a devotee is nice, but being nice doesn't mean smiling at them while they go to hell and take others to hell. The la puja pratishta di, the seeds of desire for, I mentioned jiva hingsan, but these are most dangerous. The desire for personal gain in the name of devotional service, but most dangerous of all, the desire for position and honor and prestige. Very dangerous in devotional service. So be careful. That's why when discussing topics of devotional service, we have to discuss also what is not devotional service and distinguish very clearly between what is devotional service, what is not devotional service, what is masquerading as devotional service, what is not actually devotional service. Otherwise, what do we get? We get Bahu Janma Kare Jadi Shravan Kirtan Tabuta Napai Krishna Pade Premadan. We can go on hearing and chanting for many, many lives and not come to the point of love of Krishna. We need to know what is to be done and what is not to be done, and stick to that. And be careful not to be diverted. It's hard work. It's an easy process. Krishna consciousness is an easy process. Yeah, it's easy compared to sitting in a cave for 10,000 years meditating, performing austerities. It's an easy process. It's an easy process compared to organizing huge sacrifices, in which if you even chant one syllable wrong, the whole thing is spoiled. It's an easy process in that sense. But as Premananda Thakur says, we always have to sing, Ore Man. We always have to see the condition of our mind. Udhared atmanatmanam natmanam avasadayat. We have to elevate ourselves by the mind and not become degraded. So thank you all very much for coming and listening to all of this. It's not the easiest thing to hear, maybe not the most pleasant thing to hear, but it's necessary to hear. We have devotees from various parts of Britain, Ireland, Croatia. You just came from Ireland. I could say Poland, but then Switzerland. Who came? They came from these countries to this camp. Anyone else? Anywhere else? Lithuania? France? Who came from France? Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Oh, you came from France, right? Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Hare Krishna. All glories to His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. So, Padmanabh Nityanand, you're now the announcer. We have a great yogi, Prabhupada Das, drove all night from Where does he live? Crawley? He's still living in Crawley, south of London. Drove all night, channed all his rounds, and I guess he's resting now. Oh, Sandipani came from... Oh, he's still awake. He's a real yogi. I mean, being in the class is one thing, but being awake. And then Sandipani Muni came in from Peru. You just came from Peru just now? A few days ago. He's a world traveler. Krishna's taken him to so many destinations. Peru, South America, for the benefit of those who don't know, who didn't study geography very well in school. If you never heard of Peru, you didn't lose anything. Hare Krishna. And where did I come from? Where did we come from? We came from Vrindavan to London and then here. Okay. Hare Krishna. So please announce